markets going into the election, because that's what they've said. That's what they're doing already. That's what Biden's doing with his fiscal policy. So you can either go against what they're actually saying and doing, or you can accept that they're probably going to juice the markets. And that as long as gold and silver keep rising, which is the most obvious counter to fiat in the boomer world, so will crypto, right? Gold and silver rise whenever there's some kind of devaluing of fiat currency. And that's done by more traditional finance types. And then the 21st century version of that is crypto. It's just like, I just think it's going to fucking all absolutely moon. And so I think you want to be waiting for wicks, deep wicks, and buying them. Because we still have, like, you know, a bit of a build up here. Funding rate, open interest, funding rate. And I've seen a bunch of people, which is funny too, because it shows you how nobody has any independent thought in this fucking market. I mean, everybody's opinions are sort of biased in one way or other, but I've seen a bunch of people, because there's like a few Twitter influencer types that are, well respected. People are like, oh, so and so's expecting, so and so says this looks like the 2021 top. Time to be cautious. I'm like, you even have your own fucking opinion. You're LARPing as a trader on Twitter or whatever, and yet your entire opinion to like de-risk is based off of one other person. It's okay to take other people's opinions in, but you should never base your ideas off of what one other person says. And that goes for me, especially. I say this all the time. Like, you shouldn't take trades just because I take trades, right? If you're new, obviously, right? If you're totally new to crypto, it's probably better to listen to me than to trust your gut instinct. But it doesn't mean you should blindly listen. You should always question. So, yeah, it's very easy to look at this and say there's going to be a correction at some point, because alts are back at typically overheated levels of OI, while Bitcoin is not breaking out. And funding rates are basically up only. And it's the rate of change that matters with funding. So, yeah, alts are leading. The market is being pushed mostly by alts on futures. And you can see that as well if you look at total 3 and Bitcoin, right? And you can see it here on a lower time frame, right? As alts make new highs, while BTC doesn't. So a correction's inevitable. But I think you want to make sure you're looking at your coins specifically, right? It doesn't mean that everything's going to dump. It means that alts are leading. And alts can lead from time to time. And with the ETF coming, I know that any dip on Bitcoin, and I've said this very clearly, Bitcoin 40 to 45, right? 44 to 45, 40 to 41. I fully expect it to reject here. I fully expect it to go back to 41. I fully expect everyone else to freak out, even though it's just completely normal based upon options. We have a lot of support at 40. We have a lot of resistance at 45. I don't think we break either of them before the 29th of December, which is this day next week. Alts are now have broken out and are kind of hanging over the edge. So flushing them out, flushing Bitcoin down, would be totally normal, absolutely perfect, and would be amazing buying opportunity, in my opinion. Buy that dip. At least that's what I'll be doing. And so, yeah, I think this is your best guide for the next year, right? When alts in a Bitcoin season, right, which we're in, it's a Bitcoin narrative. So Bitcoin is the ETF. The ETF is the primary narrative of the market. And we've got that coming. And yet Bitcoin is lagging as alts run. And even now, Ethereum's running too. So if I put total 2 on, you'd see it even more stark. So when that happens, it's a good time to sit back and prepare for dips to buy. Now, after the ETF, alts can actually lead on any rallies because it's not so much about Bitcoin, it's more about the overall market. But until the ETF, anytime alts get too far ahead of Bitcoin, you should expect a correction. So I'm expecting a correction. I just think it'll be a dip to buy. Personally, I think it'll be a dip to buy. We'll see how that goes. I'd like to see a fast deleveraging. I'd like to see a pretty quick nuke. Flush out some people. And that would be the perfect opportunity. And that's pretty much it. That's about all I wanted to say. I do want to say one more thing, though. We got that path. No, the last thing I wanted to say was total 3, BTC. And you should remember that at these points here, like I showed, where alts broke out, was it here? Yeah. As alts broke out of their 2019 highs, over here, August 2020, right? That was DeFi summer. It feels a lot like that because basically what's happening on Solana right now feels a lot like what happened on Ethereum with DeFi summer in 2020. But besides that, at this time, alts were leading, right? I just want to zoom out here and show you. Okay. At this time, Bitcoin, its 2019 highs were here. This was DeFi summer. Bitcoin did not reach its 2019 highs. In DeFi summer, alts did. Alts went way above their 2019 highs and showed relative strength, which is not always a bad thing. It's showing that risk on is coming back and that people want to come into the market and put money back in. So at a certain point, alt outperformance is a good thing as we get towards the new bull. And so obviously we've an even better situation now because Bitcoin has led all year. Bitcoin's been way stronger all year. Alts have been weaker. And now alts are starting to lead later, which again, short term can mean a correction. But midterm, that means now that trend is going to shift. Once the ETF is done, you're going to see alts consistently outperform Bitcoin. Because the trend of Bitcoin outperforming has been all year. And just think about any trend. People are always late to trends, the average person. So they were in Ethereum, they were in alts early in the year when Bitcoin ran. And then they're like, oh, rotation any minute, never rotated. Then the ETF comes, right? I'll get positioned for Ethereum because it's the next ETF. Then Bitcoin keeps ripping and Bitcoin just smashes everything. Now they're finally starting to admit that Bitcoin's the strongest, but it's 2 weeks until Bitcoin stops being the strongest because the ETF narrative is going to go. So yeah, be ready for alts to outperform and be prepared for buying dips. GM.